Dang it.
Well, that was a good way to start the video. I was a little bit upset with how the camera was acting, and so I went and kicked a few boards. So I've already put up a couple of 2x12s with the OSB in between them, and so now what I'm trying to do is figure out exactly how to add a third one, but I don't have enough height. These are a couple of pieces of 12-inch OSB that I've already cut for the project. So as I've mentioned before, I need to make sure that I measure out where these screws are going to go so that we don't have screws running into each other from either side. Another flyby by the Oregon Air National Guard running their jets right over the top of our sawmill shed. After installing the glue, I went ahead and put the OSB up against the beam, and used some clamps to hold it in place. I used some framing nails. I think they were about 6-penny nails to hold the OSB up against the glue until we'd come back with the 2x10 later and screw that into the beam structure. Outside. Now to go find a decent 2x10 that I can use for the final member on this center beam. Since I was by myself today, I had to use some supports, so I used a 2x4 at either end and drilled it up underneath the beam and set it on the outside beam so that I could roll the 2x10 up onto those. Check for fit. You'll see that the reason why I had to use a 2x10 is because if I used a 2x12, it would have been running up against the bottom of those rafters and it just wouldn't fit. Okay, so we have the center beam is finished, pretty much. So we have 3 2x. 2 of them are 2x12s and one of them is a 2x10. Although the 2x10 is on this side because we didn't have enough clearance underneath those rafters. But then at the end here we had some 2x12 stuff left over, so we went ahead and just put those in there. This one here, I went ahead and just hung that out over the end, and if we ever need it to lift something, to hook the chain hoist onto, to lift something out here up, maybe it's a heavy end of a log and we need to lift it, at least we've got something sticking out there that we can play with. Sort of did the same thing at the other end, although the scrap wasn't quite as long, so it doesn't stick out quite as far, but that's okay because we're planning on putting, I think at this point, a 10x12 mill head house out here that we can roll. We'll have the track coming up probably to about here, about 2 feet from the end. So the saw head will sit here at the end, but then we can take the mill head shed and we'll have barn doors on it so that the barn doors will open that way, and then we can run some angle iron, we'll have a temporary angle iron that we can run from where the track ends here at this end, and we'll run it into the mill head house, and we'll have a little stand in there at the same height as the track out here to where we can store the saw head when it's not being in use. And in the wintertime when it's rainy and cold and snowy, we can have it in there and it will be out of the weather, and also can be locked up. We can have tools in there, a little workbench, some saw blades, and that'll be a nice little work station in there. But having this stick out just a little bit, again, gives us something to hook onto if we need to lift something here. So that's done. Primarily, front beam is done. The roof is done, although we still have screws to put on. So I'm gonna wait for a cooler day to do that, to finish screwing it off. And so then either this afternoon or tomorrow, we're gonna start putting some siding on and try to side this back wall. The other thing I was thinking about because I'm concerned about noise and I don't want to disturb the neighbors down below. We're going to put some 2-inch foam board on the inside here. That should deaden the sound to some degree. And then I thought, well, we could bring our totes. We got these totes stored down here. We're not really using them. We've got enough of them that we could stack them in here. We could put one row and then a second row up there, which would come up to about this height here. And those would help deaden the sound too. I'm not sure if they are either going to deaden the sound or they're going to amplify the sound. Maybe they'll act like speakers. If they do, then we'll get some rainwater and fill them up with rainwater. That should deaden them. But anything I can do to try to keep the sound at a reasonable level here. So that's what we're up against today. Thanks for coming along. Gonna go have some lunch and we'll be back at it this afternoon.